Brevard News, your home for real news in Brevard. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Katie Delaney, and I'm filling in for Kevin Jeffrey. Tonight we have Chris Childs, who's running for City Council, Seat 2 in Titusville, and Stell Bailey, our investigative journalist. And tonight we are going to be talking about the county budget, the Titusville budget, and the debate for D1, not only the D1 commissioners, but also the Titusville City Council. So the county budget was just shored up, and Stell, it seemed like there was a few things there that were happening in regards to the firefighters and the lifeguards, and there were some advocates there who were speaking about that. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so they rejected the proposal. They've been dealing with this all year. They've been in negotiations, so there's not much that they can talk about because they're currently in negotiations. But there were some concerning comments that I saw and heard that it should really alarm anyone in the county, and it has to do with the deplorable conditions they're dealing with, on top of the pay issues they're dealing with. And here are just some of the examples of that. They were talking about how some of their fire engines do not have air.
Wow.
And that they have to use fans to cool down in their engines. And then,
wow.
Some of their, one of their stations was condemned. Mm-hmm. And so they're dealing with that. They don't have access to showers, and I was just really, really concerned about that. I mean, what do you think, Chris, about the firefighters in the situation?
I think that's shameful. I think they were talking about they have temporary place, and that they're going to maybe work on showers for them. So they don't have showers for people who put their lives on the line for us, and that's really disappointing. I mean, they're there all the time. So
Right.
It's like you having a house and not having the proper facilities for your house.
Right.
Yeah.
And so are they renting showers then? That I would guess would be pretty costly for the county to be having temporary showers.
I
That's
would think
insane.
so too. I mean, we got to take care of these men and women.
Right.
I am just appalled. Just as a citizen and as a taxpayer, our public safety should come first and foremost, and they should be taken care of. And so the fact that they don't even have the bare necessities. I mean, I'm hearing them say that they have medications, the paramedics saying they have medications that are expired or expiring, and they're just having difficulty catching up and keeping up with a lot of these issues, from their turnout gear, having to replace it. You have to replace it so many years, and they're having issues with that. They have this building issue, and then so they're at the county budget, and they have been consistent every single month this year going there and just trying to repeatedly get across to these county commissioners that, we have these issues we're facing in the budget, and we also have these pay issues. And we really need you guys to step up as leaders and as representatives, because we're dealing with this crisis where we're losing veterans and we're losing people to other counties that are paying better.
Right. And the number one thing that government should be doing is funding public safety. So the fact that we have just passed a county budget that hasn't done that is not okay. And hopefully, with the turnover of leadership, with 3 new commissioners coming in, hopefully that'll be prioritized better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And then that goes right along with our need for lifeguards, this lifeguard debate that's going on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was a very interesting back and forth conversation with the county commissioners. You had, one county commissioner, well, who's responsible for the safety? We are asking tourists to come here to the Space Coast, and we get a lot of tourism from people that fly in from Orlando and they go to Disney, and then they come here to visit our beaches for a day or two. You've got people from the cruise lines that get off the cruises and they go visit Cocoa Beach, and some of the concerns that were discussed were the fact that we have all these advertisements, billboards on your way here that say, come to Cocoa Beach, come, enjoy our beaches. But then we're dealing with all these drownings and safety issues, and they're worried that word's going to get out. They've already talked about how it's made the news headlines, and they're concerned that this is going to harm tourism in our area if we continue to go down this path of people constantly drowning. And can you believe as well that one person even said, well, it's mostly tourists that are drowning. They're the ones that don't know anything.
Wow.
And so why are we spending our tax dollars to save the tourists?
Wow.
You know, I mean,
Did you?
you're bringing people in, and then you're like, oh, they're drowning in my pool, but
Right.
it's because they don't know how to swim in the pool. So you're inviting people in and then blaming them. That's shameful as well. So all sorts of shameful stuff going on.
Right.
But yeah,
And there was something interesting we learned about the data that's recorded.
Mm-hmm.
That not only that the data that is available is only the people who have actually drowned, not
got
the
it.
people who have gone under and they've that they've helped. That's just these are just the people.
These are
that
just the deaths,
right,
correct?
exactly.
Yeah, so that's interesting to me because why are we not collecting the data? So that reminds me of so what's happening, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is they go and they save people from a drowning and they say that they had a cardiac arrest, but they're still alive.
Right.
So they don't report it as a drowning.
Right. It's almost like COVID.
That is interesting. Well, it's almost like, cancer patients, a lot of times when you look at their death certificates, they're not recorded as passing away from the cancer.
Right.
They're recorded as passing away from whatever the ailments that they had,
Right.
whether it's kidney failure or,
lung failure.
lung failure. And so that's what this reminds me of. And I think we need to have much more accurate data to understand what is happening here.
Exactly.
Data is always good.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And so next we have our Titusville budget that was also passed. So Chris, would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
There was a lot of discussion. There were people who showed up and spoke about it. Dwight Severs was one of them. He pointed out that raises were across the board. Even people over $200,000 were getting raises, which also included the city manager and the city attorney. Now those people have like contracts, so they're automatically get whatever. I think they get automatically whatever everyone else gets or something like that. But he said that. He also brought up the Florida statute that said that at the budget meetings, the citizens are allowed to ask questions. And which he said, which implies that you get an answer. Right. So he stood there while they kind of fumbled around and started answering his questions to some extent, and it was good. It was a good back and forth for a while, but it it was kind of a spotlight of that. A lot of the mayor and some of the other people on council were like, "Oh, we didn't ask that," and so it was shining a light on that. There's a lot of room for improvement of, them going through the budget and asking good questions of the staff before it comes to the public. And then, the fact that Dwight Severs had to kind of push that was I don't know.
And I'd like to mention too, Dwight Severs, he's been a citizen for a very long time in the city of Titusville. But he sent these questions ahead of time. He even says in his public comment, I emailed these not only to the city council, but also to the staff, and not one single person answered his questions.
Wow.
Yeah, he emailed that before the first public budget meeting. Wow. And so they had plenty of time before that. This is like a month ago or more that he emailed and I think he actually sent a letter. It wasn't just an email. It was like a letter, and I think he hand delivered at least one of them. But they had it. They've had it for over a month, and they didn't have answers prepared for him. Wow. It was crazy. They were scrambling to answer some of these questions, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have an answer for that." And it's just like, why not?
Even at one point, Jo Lynn Nelson, who's a city council member, said, "In hindsight, we probably should have asked those questions." And it just became really apparent as I watched this budget meeting. The city council relies so heavily, and we've talked about this in the past, on the staff to make a majority of the decisions for them. And when you represent the people expect you to do your research and to go in there armed with knowledge, armed with questions, and able to defend them and to be able to stand for them and to do the best you can to keep their taxes low.
Right.
It's just appalling, some of the commentary, and scary.
Right.
It just didn't feel like they did their research or enough to ask the questions. And when they were saying things like what you said about, well, I don't know the answer to your question, and in hindsight, I should have asked those questions.
And it's really sad because maybe the city of Titusville wouldn't have had to raise their taxes every year for the past
And
what 7-8 years.
yeah, last 7 of the 8 years. The only one that they didn't raise taxes was in 2020. So this year again, they just voted to raise property taxes, trash, water, and sewer. So all of those are going up. So and when they give like the example of I think a $290,000 assessed value home, what the taxes were. I think it was for a city, it was going to be like around $1,200. I did like the math of what it would be without the without the raise, and it was $40 difference. If you're just talking about property tax, not too bad. I mean, maybe $40, but it's still that and trash and water and sewer all going up at the same time. It all adds up,
Right.
and that's for a homesteaded house. That's not the rental properties that aren't homesteaded and aren't Save Our Homes. Those are going to go up even more. So they were just giving the example of a homesteaded house. So all of them are going up.
And it's crazy to think about that because both with the city of Titusville and the county manager and the county attorney and the city manager and the city attorney, all of those people make well over $200,000 a year, and those people got raises.
Yeah, so that was a big discussion that night. The city manager of Titusville makes over $18,000 a month. And a lot of people were asking, why he continues to get raises, but they said he could forego that raise to pay their employees more because it's the lower end people that are hurting the most. I mean, imagine making over $18,000 a month.
Right.
No, I don't know of many people that could fathom that. And so it's really the lower end employees that we should be advocating for that really need these raises. Especially
when their taxes are getting raised and they're going to have a higher water bill, sewer bill, trash bill. So that money, I'm sure, could come in handy. So
Absolutely.
if these people were really advocating for the people, you would think that they would be thinking about that.
They said it's needed, and they said that they asked the city manager for to reduce things and for cuts. But when someone had requested all the emails about the budget, went through them, and I didn't see a lot of back and forth about the budget at all. So it seems like. And then when you watch them at city council talk about the budget and you have these questions come up, they don't seem to have a lot of answers. So you're like, all right, we don't see email communication about it. And when you're asked questions, there's not a lot of information. So are you guys really talking about it? And if they are, it's in one-on-one with the city manager, and we're not privy to those. So we don't see if they're really putting in the work to look out for us. That's really all we're asking for. We're just asking for them to look out for us, like we're voting for them and to represent us, and we want them to represent us.
And that definitely got brought up that night. Of course, the city council is extremely concerned about perspective, optics, appearances, and this has been a common trend throughout the year where, they've slowly even talked about getting a public information officer to help get out information. We call them the propaganda information officer. But that was brought up because along with other issues in the budget, like somebody brought up the Great Outdoors. And the person that's the manager of the Great Outdoors, Billy Specht, is running for city council in the city of Titusville. And there was concerns about how the city of Titusville appoints people on the embeds and that there was money. And they were saying it doesn't look good when you've got your friends all on this board and then you've got this council member who's getting donations and then they get this large sum of money for a project on their property.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the question, and at first I think one of the city council members was like, "Well, that's not us," but then I think Dwight said, "Well, you guys appoint the members of that board." Right. So it's the North Brevard Economic Development Zone, is what it is. Is for anyone who doesn't know.
And the people who are appointing those people to that board, some from the county, some from the city of Titusville. So it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. That's for sure.
Another speaker, I just want to point out too, she brought up a really good, I love it when people come with ideas and solutions. And she came up with this solution, and even the Mayor Diesel was like, wait, say that again? Because he liked it, where she said, what you should do is give like a baseline pay to the people that come in, like our mayor, because they don't have experience. They're coming in inexperienced, without experience, and then give them the pay raise when they get the experience and if they get elected again.
Right.
And he seemed to really like that concept and that idea. And I don't think many people would be against that idea, because that's how the normal world works. You
Right.
don't just go in making all this money. You go in and you prove your value.
Right.
In the job role. And so there was some really great speakers, and I'm just so grateful for the people who did show up, who used their voices and brought forward, their concerns to the city council.
For sure. So then we had on Friday night the District 1 and Titusville City Council debate. And so I'd love to hear your perspectives on that. Chris, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, well, for the county, it was great that all three of you guys showed up. For all the three city council races, only one for each race showed up. So there were three that were missing. Some had, at least one had said that they were going to come and didn't come. I think that was Andrew Connors was for the mayor race. I don't know if he said if he told anyone he wasn't going to come, but I don't know. I think that you should show up for the people, especially that one was, it was scheduled like months in advance. So, or at least a month in advance, I think it was. But they had ample time to, be prepared and come and show up for the citizens, or at least tell, the organizer or your opponent that you're not coming. Billy Speck did tell Megan that he had prior obligation that he needed to do. So that was nice. But my opponent and Andrew, I don't think that they gave notice to that they weren't going to show up.
Wow.
So that's disappointing to the citizens. They want to see you show up for them. If you're not going to show up to the debate, are you going to show up for them, on the dais? So.
Well, Andrew and Sarah, we'd love to have you come on Brevard News. So just get with us. You know how to contact us.
Mm-hmm.
Stell,
Yeah.
what did you think about?
Well, first, I just want to point out how professionally ran this was. The Sears Town Mall really put it together. They were really serious about it. They wanted to make sure that it was a professional debate. They set it up just so great. And this is more of what the community wants to see. They're really interested in town halls like this and being able to go and openly ask questions from the audience. And I think that the candidates that did show up, they showed bravery and courage, because it's not easy to sit in a room knowing that there are some people that may not like you or like your values or your position. But I believe that communities need to be doing this more and getting in person and having these conversations like old school town halls. And it was great seeing the three county commissioner candidates show up for the community. It was well attended. I mean, it was a packed room plus standing. We had people having to stand at some point because there were that many people. But it was very disappointing to see the Titusville candidates not come, and especially the one who said they were going to come and didn't. And for me, it felt like just excuses, in my opinion, because I was supposed to be at the football game halftime. I actually grew up in this community, and it's my 20-year reunion, and I was supposed to be there. And I decided to live stream this debate for the community so they had access to it to see their candidates and so that they can make informed decisions on the debate. And there is a difference between debates and regular forums where it's very structured and they ask questions, and there's the debate. You were able to address each other, and it allowed the community to have the microphone at the end and to be able to ask their questions that they want to know. And so I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. It was great. I think that this was one of our best events that we've had this year. And I gotta say, I'm pretty, even though we're competing against each other, I'm pretty impressed about the way that myself and my opponents are handling this and going through it and not getting personal, sticking to the issues. We're very different people, but I think I feel confident enough to speak for for the three of us to say we're trying to change the face of politics because of we want to not take lobbyist money, not take developer money. We want to, focus on the issues and not focus on personally attacking one another and getting some of this big money out of our local elections. So I'm just really glad that, we've been sticking to that, and I can't wait for the future. And I hope it inspires other regular people to, run for office, because you don't have to be an engineer or a lawyer or whatever. You don't have to be this type of person to run for office. All you have to do is be willing to dive in and look into the information that's brought before you and care about your community.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And have a servant's heart, of course. And so I really hope that this inspires people, because we need people who care about our community to step up and run for office.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was great because you guys, I think the public got to see the differences between you three. They definitely got to see the differences between you three, and it was very respectfully done. And but that's what everyone needs to see is, all right, what are my choices?
Right.
Not, just,
And like each candidate had an opportunity to suggest their moderator of their choice. And so they made sure there was diversity on that panel.
Right.
And the feedback, the overwhelming feedback we got from everyone who attended, there were people who didn't know who they were going to vote for. And when they left there, I think it hurt the candidates that did not show up, because there were fans of those candidates who showed up for them.
Wow.
And it changed those people's minds. And
Wow.
they said, I'm really disappointed because I came here for so-and-so, one of the three that didn't show up. And they said, and now I'm rethinking my vote.
Wow. Part of the job is showing up and being willing to answer the tough questions and be out there in front of the public and be in sometimes really uncomfortable situations. But when you're asking for this type of role, that's the job, to get into the mud, get into the nitty gritty with the public and figure out what's going on and how can we help. That's the name of the game. And this is my 2 cents for tonight. Elected officials must be accountable to the people. And that includes showing up for questions from the people, planning ahead, and asking good questions of the staff early enough where changes can still be made. Thomas Jefferson once said, "When a man assumes a public trust, he should consider himself as public property." Thank you so much for watching Brevard News, and we'll see you next time.